At Heatherleys we have a life drawing class on a Friday which is called Open Studio, and it's one of those classes where people can come and draw whatever their experience. And in those classes what I try and do is judge the project to fit those levels, which may sound a bit ambitious, but what I find is that people learn from each other, so therefore a beginner isn't necessarily in a bad position.
When I've been involved more in the drawing classes on Friday in the Open Studio, that's been a really good vehicle for a tutor to be able to experiment with approaches to drawing the figure and to take it to some extensive lengths, really. The results that have come out have been very, very stimulating in the sense that you can get students to cut into drawings or bring other material onto the surfaces. I have a term for it. I call it expanded figure drawing, where you make the whole experience expanded into other uses of materials and other notions of what a drawing can be. What I've learned with teaching is that you have to ask yourself and your students to ask themselves, what is it they want from their piece of work? What is their connection with them and their drawing? And this is a crucial question for me, because it's the difference between somebody holding a pencil in front of a paper and something going on that they're vaguely connected to, and there you get a non-committal piece of work that you don't want to look at because it's not visually engaging. It ends up being visually miserable. So what you have to do then is make them aware that they're making a piece of work and they have a certain implement in their hand, whether it's a pencil, a charcoal or a rubber. And these things are tools and implements that must be really utilized. And then how do you understand the utilization of it? That's the transfiguration of the surface, how they actually manipulate things, because what they manipulate has to be something that they're connected to, that they like. And if they like what they're doing, if they're engaged in what they're doing, then something starts to become, rather than something that is a distance from themselves, and it's a drawing of something, but there's been no vital use of their own personality, their own sense of gesture, their own sense of their body and the space. All these things, you really have to work hard to get people to do this, because they seem to be so unaware. And I find that really the most difficult part of teaching, trying to bring those things together. How can you bring them into something, into the fold that you know about? And you want to transfer those richnesses into something that they can bring about on their own work.
People that come to life drawing often think that it's about representing. And I think that's obviously largely true, but what I'm also keen on doing in the life drawing is to try and make people think about what it's for. By that I mean, in the past, lots of artists made sketches for paintings, and when you see the painting it may look like they had lots of figures all together, but of course we know that was never the case. They were making a composition like a jigsaw puzzle. And so often the projects I do in life drawing kind of prove the point that you can manipulate and change what's there in front of you. Whilst I think it's important to measure and to try and depict what's in front of you, I think it's also important to feel that you've got some kind of flexibility in the way that you use those images. So often we're doing projects on a Friday where the aim isn't necessarily to make an exact representation of what's there. We're thinking ahead, how could I use that? How could I apply that to a painting? And also, how could you learn more from pictures you might look at in a gallery?
If you teach something that you really love and you're engaged with, you can't stop yourself from enthusing, because I think teachers in art schools really love what they do. And once you love what you do, once you become a kind of a lover, you can't ever kind of drop your standards down to something mediocre, because lovers don't do that, do they? Lovers are passionate.